All right. Well, it is time for some average rants here on KNMC 90.1 FM. And if you are a regular no, regular listener, there we go. Uh, my partner in crime, Derek, he's at a wedding and he is still getting back. So he should be back here randomly, hopefully at some point. So I'm not talking to myself, which I mean I'm pretty good at talking to myself and having conversations like that. But well, we'll start with the community calendar here. What is the date today? Oh, today is August 15th. Oh, well, I don't know, but there is a Chips and Salsa tour happening today at 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Triple Dog Brewing. And I suggest that you head out there if you really like KNMC because we are sponsoring that event. It will have Isaac Opatats. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I am not very good at names. But it should be a good time. And I mean, he's taking time to stop in here. And it is, you've guessed it, it is free. So why not? You got nothing else to do on a Sunday, and work is going to be starting tomorrow for most. Might as well go out and enjoy the last day of the weekend. What else we got going on? Well, we've got story time, and that's happening at 10:15 a.m. tomorrow at the Haverhill County Library Facebook page. There's also free music with Mary Stevens playing the piano happening at 10:30 a.m. So you could get a story and a solo. So that would be pretty interesting. Tuesday, August 17th, Kicks at 6 is happening at Pepin Park at 4th Street and 7th Avenue. With drawings, prizes, and music by the Other Bros and Sisters. Yeah, and we got Wednesday, August 18th, Sounds on the Square with free concert featuring Blind Luck playing classic rock at 6 p.m. That's at the Town Square on the 300 block of First Street. So I think that's pretty good for the community calendar. I mean, the weather is kind of interesting today. I thought it was going to rain, but it is not so far. But it is it felt kind of red looking today. Well, on to some fun things. Apparently, I am being told I sound lonely. But since Derek is not here, I have free reign to do what I want. So I thought it'd be interesting to go and find some kind of unsolved mysteries that had like a weird twist on them and tell you guys about them and then have some thoughts and go on from there. So one of the things I found was there was this incident at Daytavon Pass on the first night of February in 1959. 9 ski hikers died mysteriously in the mountains of what is now Russia. The night of the incident, the group had set up camp on a slope, enjoying dinner, and they prepared to sleep. But I guess something went like catastrophically wrong. Hence, they died. But the cool thing is, the mysterious thing is, so on February 26th, researchers found the hikers' abandoned tent, which had been ripped open from the inside. So, yeah, nothing came in from the out, it was from the inside. Surrounding the area were footprints left by the group. Some were wearing socks, some were wearing a single shoe, some were barefoot, all of which continued to the edge of a nearby wood. So that's where the first two bodies were found. They were shoeless and they were only wearing their underwear. The scene bore marks of death by hypothermia, which, I mean, if you're just in your underwear, makes sense in the mountains, in the cold. Um, but the medical examiners started to examine the bodies, as well as the other seven. So, other seven that were found, hypothermia never made sense. In fact, there was evidence that one body had been killed by blunt force trauma with consistent blunt force trauma. Uh, Another had third-degree burns. Yeah, you heard me. Third-degree burns in the middle of winter. So it was clearly set on fire. Um, One had been vomiting blood. One was missing its tongue, and some of the clothing on the person that had either bit off his own tongue or it was ripped out was found to be radioactive. There was lots of theories that I could find uh, with this, going from like KGB interference, drug overdose, UFO, gravity anomalies, and I mean, even Russia has its own version of the Yeti. But I mean, when I saw the version of the Yeti, it really just blew my mind because I was like, well, so if there is one, it knows how to set people on fire. So that kind of didn't really make sense to me. There's actually recently a documentary filmmaker that proposed, I guess, a theory that I've actually heard of called infrasound, which the wind interacts with the surrounding area. So, example would be if you're in the middle of a valley surrounded by mountains, if the wind is hitting at the right angle against the mountains, it sends vibrations between the two and then affects um, the mental health of people. And this has actually been somewhat documented, and it is found to cause nausea, panic, dread, chills, nervousness, raised heart rate, breathing difficulties. But like the thing is when they went there and they went to go find the missing hikers, no one else was affected by that while they were doing the search. So it just kind of adds that sense of mystery. Like, is this something that can sound actually drive somebody crazy? I just I'm not. To me, it was it was kind of a chilly kind of story, no pun intended, but really thinking about how 9 people that would more than likely be somewhat experienced hikers go into the woods, and all of them are killed by what looks to be different means. So all at one time. So I know a lot of people think, oh, like in horror movies, you've got the guy that comes and he can just somehow overpower a whole like campground of people. I know they usually end up running off on their own, but let's be real. If I was in a situation and I had 9 people with me and there was somebody doing some bad things, I'm pretty sure we could overpower one person. Because there was no gunshot wounds. The only real violent one was the blunt force trauma. All the other ones seemed to be more, well, I guess unless you didn't set yourself on fire and you didn't bite your own tongue off. But it just, it's kind of interesting. I guess it also makes it more interesting that it was around Russia. Now, take it wasn't Russia then I believe it was still the Soviet Union at the time. But yeah, I mean, it is something to think about how weird. Like maybe it is. It's a sound. So could we weaponize a sound that would make people just go insane? And that's another, I guess, talk that we could have of would that even be a good idea? Because if you could weaponize sound, that would be probably more deadly than a gun. But yeah. So there's that. And no. So I just had a question from Derek's wife Amanda. There were no other footprints found. So the only footprints that were in the area that were discovered were made by the people that were camping there. So unless somebody's just really good, I know in cartoon movies and whatnot, you can just use a branch and sweep away your footprints. But I don't think that would be the case here. But yeah, it's a crazy, little scary story, and it kind of leads me into another cool one that I found. And this one's more. This one's just scary, thinking that this could actually happen. So, from 1917 to 1928, 500,000 people were affected with a ghastly condition that could be, well, yeah, it could be part of a plot line to a horror movie. So the victims, they were very much alive and they were conscious, but they found themselves inexplicably frozen in a state. Um, their bodies were basically prisons for their minds. Um, I would butcher what it's actually called, but the translation of it is called the sleeping sickness. It first appeared in Europe and quickly spread around the world. So, I mean, it kind of relates to what's going on with COVID. Um, so it spread around the world, reaching epidemic levels in North America, Europe, and India by 1919. About a third of those stricken with the illness died. Of the survivors, nearly half eventually found themselves unable to physically interact with the world around them, all while they were fully aware of their surroundings. Though occasionally capable of limited speech, eye motion, and even laughter, they generally appeared as living statues, totally motionless for hours, days, weeks, even years. So, the cause of this is still unknown. The only theory that they came into was that there might have been some brain inflammation triggered by a rare strain of like virus that basically causes sore throats. I'd use the technical term, but I mean, let's be honest, it's a virus that was causing sore throats each year. Scientists believe that maybe the bacteria mutated, provoking an immune response to attack the brain, leaving the victims helpless. But that would be, to me, that would be like the worst. At least with the stuff that's kind of happening now, you get sick, you're still able to move, but you're coughing, and I mean, it can get catastrophic to some, but you're still in control of yourself. I couldn't even imagine opening my eyes one day and not being able to do anything but even just look around a room where you couldn't move, you couldn't speak, you couldn't tell people you wanted, you couldn't blink to have, so blink one for no. Um, but the crazy thing about this is it like disappeared. So out of nowhere, the illness just disappeared, but then resurfaced randomly in Europe in 1950, and then in China just about 10 years ago. Um, the difference was is there it wasn't almost it wasn't as widespread, so it was like more contained. It didn't really explain what happened in Europe, but in China, when it resurfaced, and this isn't that long ago, um, there was a 12-year-old girl was hospitalized for 5 weeks with the disease. So for 5 weeks, this 12-year-old girl was trapped within her own body. Uh, I guess kind of the thought with it is this starting to become like a new norm where like a disease will disappear because I mean heck the it was the plague, the disease that was causing the plague was found in the United States. Uh, so that's usually transferred. It was transferred through rats and rodents, but somehow the disease that we thought was completely wiped out is back, and it's not as widespread. We know how to fight it, but is this kind of what happens? Are we just a slave to diseases? Is this going to be how things work? Maybe we're just at that time when all these rare, random diseases are going to come back and start attacking people. But I don't know. I don't know about the listeners listening, but I would not want to be trapped in my own body without being able to move. I talk way too much and I move around too much. I feel like it would make me go insane. Like I feel like, especially some of these people had it for years. So a year even of not being able to do anything. And I mean, most people look at that as like, oh man, I like not work for a year, but this is like, it's like being in the worst prison ever. I'd almost want to be in a prison where you were tortured randomly than being stuck without being able to move. But yeah, so that's just a couple stories. I feel like I will let you guys listen to some music and then just listen to me talk because it's probably not as entertaining as when Derek and I get to ramble off of each other. So let's see, let's get some music on. Here you go. Here's My California, Justin Fox. Hooey. It's tougher than I thought it would be. One person watching, feel bad for that person because it's just me. But yeah, pretty ridiculous. I don't know. I just fucking couldn't do it. I feel like people would just want to just pretty much want to punch yourself in the face, even if you could. Like I couldn't stand not moving. If you're watching this, which is probably just my wife watching, I never sit still in this chair. I just can't do it. Let's see, how far away is this guy? But yeah, so I watched Free Guy this weekend. It was pretty good. IGN gave it a 7 out of 10. I think that's other fucking bullshit because it was a fantastic movie. The only thing was the ending, very predictable, but I did love the plot and everything else between it. But yeah, good movie. I mean, this would go a lot better if the people in the chat would have a conversation with me. But no, if you are just tuning in, Derek is coming back from a wedding, so he's apparently 20 minutes out. Apparently, people are talking in the chat. I don't see anything. Oh no. What did I do wrong? Oh, there you go. There's that better. Oh. Well, I don't know. Good. Keep talking. Man, you know, for me being a guy that doesn't like to shut up, when people tell me to keep talking, it seems to be hard to keep talking. Especially because, I mean, I rant with Derek because we can rant back and forth. But by myself, I mean, man, I could rant about so much stuff, like the pieces of shit that sold their house across the street from us. So we've been trying to sell our house and the house across the street, which I believe is not even close to as nice as ours. Just sold. So that kind of ticked us off today. So I went on a spree and we literally moved all the stuff out of our backyard to hopefully try to make it look bigger. Put it on the side yard, which some people forgot that we had. Oh man, it's so hard to read chat from back there. Oh, I guess I could do that. So, all right. So maybe I'll save it for when this song is done, because this song is pretty close to being done. So. But yeah, I guess we're gonna do some chilling, scary kind of stories. And I love the smiling guy story. That one's that one's more like a ghost story that just people tell to scare people. But man, if that actually happened to somebody, that would scare the shit out of me. But you should look up that. I think it's called The Smiling Man, something like that. It's extremely creepy. So I think there's a video. All right, and yeah, we are back. So some of our listeners on YouTube, that's right, YouTube. So if you want, you can look for Average Rants on YouTube. You'll find us live, coming from you at this KNMC 90.1 FM. So you can see what it looks like in the studio here. And but one of our listeners there wanted me to tell you guys a story that happened to me when I was actually young. So I lived in Bancroft, Ontario. That's up in Canada, and that's kind of population like I think it was 1,000 people there. A little small town. But we lived kind of just out of that town in a small subdivision. And when I say small subdivision, it was literally just a square and maybe 30 homes within that square. But I slept in the basement, And I remember I was sleeping, and I mean, I was never afraid to be in the basement. And I I woke up, and I remember looking at the clock, and it was around three in the morning, and my bed was kind of pushed up against a wall, and I was looking at the wall, and I felt like, that feeling when you think something's behind you. And I mean, that almost happens to me every time I go up the stairs from the basement nowadays, when I turn off the light and then walk up without the light on. Uh, but I don't know if it's because of this story that makes it like that. But I was in the basement, sleeping, and I would have been 16, 17. And I remember it felt like there was something behind me. So I wanted to look, but I couldn't. So I kind of felt like I was like trapped in my own body. But I mean, I could move my eyes and my head a little bit, but it was almost like I was so scared because I could see something out of the corner of my eye, and it looked like, it wasn't like death, but it looked like something shrouded in black standing over me, just slightly, like, to the point that if I could swing my arm from where I was, I would have hit it. But I just couldn't get the I couldn't get my body to do it. And it felt like it was because I was so scared that something was there. Um, and I get chills just thinking about it. But so what I eventually had to do was, I remember I just sat there and I was just like, nope, this is not how it ends. Uh, and I just fought it, and I just quickly swung over. And when I did that, there was nothing there. Absolutely nothing. It was just the light from my stereo. Um, it was a 5 CD changer stereo for all you people that wanted to know how cool that was back then. But the light from that was the only thing in that room, and there was nothing there. And I mean, I think the thing that made it feel even, because I thought that maybe I was just dreaming, and you had like a night terror kind of thing. I know that those are kind of what that is like, but I remember looking at the clock, and it was only like 5 minutes later from what I had seen. And then the next day, I went upstairs and I told my mom about it, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you mean the lady that's in the basement?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Oh, she won't hurt you." I was like, "Well, I don't know if that was the lady in the basement, because it seemed like, I mean, I am I'm getting older, in my late 30s, and I would have to say that that was the scariest moment I have ever had in my entire life. Um, at least with the fear of something happening to me. I have had other scary moments where something was happening to somebody else, but for me, that was it's really the only time that I felt like something was going to kill me. And I mean, I've pissed off a lot of people in my day, and they usually just say, "I don't know what it is. I want to punch you in the face." But there's just something that's stopping me from doing it. But yeah, um, yeah, that was my crazy little scary story. And that was just somebody on Facebook wanted me well, on YouTube wanted me to tell that story. But once again, remember, if you want to see us live, and when the music comes on, we try to keep talking, and we can actually say words and talk about other things that we shouldn't discuss over the radio. So once again, yeah, find us on YouTube, Average Rants, and you can also follow us on Facebook with Average Rants, because nobody's taken that title. Nobody ever wanted to make a show called Average Rants, and that's because everybody thinks that they're better than average. But Derek and I, we feel like we're pretty average, just average guys that don't know nothing about anything. But yeah, so I got another little story here. What's this one? So, this is in Brazil. So it's not unusual to find junk in Brazil. And oh man, once again, I'm gonna butcher this this word, but Gananara Barra Bay. Um, but the Robert Marks unearthed there in the 1982. It was kind of unusual foreign matter. So they found something that, like, think of like a rock, but they didn't know what it actually was. And it was in an underwater field the size of three tennis courts, located 15 miles from the shore. Uh, and it was also near the remains of some 200 Roman ceramic jars that were fully intact. According to Marx, a professional treasure hunter, the jars appeared to be twin handled and were used to transport goods such as grains, wines, and that was all done in the third century. Uh, but how did they get there? There were first Europeans didn't reach Brazil until the 1500s. The Romans, who traded primarily in the Mediterranean port cities and the Middle East, had little incentive to really send ships that could cross oceans. However, they did sail as far as India. Uh, Perhaps some untrained navigator lost his way in a storm, or maybe like a ship uh, mutinied against and then took over, but then they didn't know where they were going, so they just tried to run. I mean, that's something that we'll just never know. Uh, but I mean, it's not like they're going to find any more evidence. Something that happened that long ago, it'd be hard to really backtrace it and figure it out. Um, but in Brazil closed the bay of jars. I guess that's what they call it now, to further research it in 1983, and in an effort to deter looters from stealing them. Marx claimed the government didn't want the area explored because finding Roman era artifacts there would mean that, contrary to Brazil's official history, the Portuguese were not the first Europeans to reach the country. And the truth, well, I mean, it's resting 100 feet under the sea. So, I mean, that's kind of a cool thing. That one's more just finding ancient artifacts in the middle of a bay that nobody knew were there. And then once discovered, all of a sudden the the yellow tape comes out and nobody's allowed to figure out what happened. I find like this happens a lot these days. It seems like any time somebody can be proven wrong with something, and this could be anything. It could be religious, it could be political, it could just be, is the moon actually a projection? But if you come close to figuring it out, all of a sudden everything is put on a stop. And I don't know if it's, well, I mean, like a good example would be with what's happening kind of right now is the release of uh, unidentified flying objects that the military actually filmed and had voice recording for, and the government finally was forced to release documents that they had on it to the public. And you can find those. I've looked at them, and they're still pretty blacked out. Which anytime I don't get it. Anytime you see a document that has strucken out black stuff all over the place, is to me a red flag that they're just hiding something. Uh, I just I don't know, it bothers me. But that kind of thing just shows, why would they hide that from us? Is the government in like any place afraid that it would scare people? It would set them on like a war path to be like, well, I mean, example, really think about what you would do. And I mean, everybody has their own opinion on if aliens and that kind of stuff exists. But if they did, and they came and they showed up in a swarm, how would you react? Would you want to be more scientific about it? Or would you just grab up arms and prepare to fight because you assume that that's what they're going to do? And I think it's almost like you could think of that and take that kind of thought process with like anything. If anything just randomly, suddenly changes in your life, how do you react to that kind of stuff? Do you panic? Do you take up arms? You fight back? But let's say that, aliens do exist and the government knows that they do. If they actually let us know about it and we had time to normalize that kind of thing could happen, would we be more likely to gain more allies in the world, in the universe, or would we just be cannon fodder to them? So I think it's kind of fun to think about it. I personally, I don't think there's any way that there could be all these planets in the universe and only one has some type of life. I'd like to think that we're not, because eventually we're gonna figure out most of the stuff we can, and just like how it was back in the days of exploration, nobody knew that the continent that we are on right now existed. But now, Derek's at the door, but I'm going to finish my thought. But now we've explored all of the Earth. The only thing we haven't explored is under the ocean. And what happens after we do that? Where we got left to explore, people are going to start looking towards the stars. And it'll be interesting, and I don't think I'm going to be around for that, but I will put some music on so I can go let Derek in here. Let's try to get something a little bit more rocky going. There you go. Oh! I know. You're all right. You're like, I don't know what
Oh, I'm here.
You're here. It's the most chat we've had.
It's the most chat we've ever had, and you're like, you didn't even know it was on, did you?
I didn't know you had to click the button to make it pop down.
Oh,
I thought it was just there.
you missed me?
Yeah. This is hard.
This whole radio thing is hard. People don't need to see.
And because I had to run and get your laptop, I didn't have time to get snacks.
Oh.
So I stole one of your iced tea.
I figured you'd have been there anyway. Would you like a Milky Way?
I'm not going to say no.
I know you won't say no. Take it. Oh, pull it.
Oh, hold on.
Do it.
I just want to pull out your log there.
Oh, God. So, yes, that first thing you were talking about, that Siberian thingy, there's a whole Expedition Unknown thing. You can go check that out.
I think I saw it.
They go to the actual place where it took place.
It is kind of in like a weird...
they're thinking that there was something military behind it. And that's why, yeah. Well, it's the Soviet Union.
No, I found like the top 19 strangest unsolved mysteries.
I've actually got some stuff for us this week to go along with it. So, On the week I had stuff to talk about, I had to be late, but what are you gonna do? So, here's one we can talk about right now, Barry. Since we're just the YouTube guys. You're gonna like this one. We don't like to get into this type of stuff, but it was too funny for me to pass up. A healthcare TikToker shares how an anti-vaxxer cut off his own testicle to remove the tracker.
Well, good.
Should have got them both. This guy apparently thought that he was forced. He said he was kidnapped and forced to get the vaccine, and the tracker traveled down to his testicle, so he removed it. And then once he started to bleed profusely, he realized he had made a mistake and had to call an ambulance.
I'm gonna give everybody a little biology tip. Your testicles aren't connected.
The thing is she's a nurse. The TikToker who documented this, and she was one of the nurses there. She's like, he still didn't explain how or why it was the test, because you get the shot in the arm.
Yeah. Like, there's no way. There's like no. It just doesn't make any sense.
But she's not certain why he chose his testicle. I'm thinking nature was doing itself a favor.
Because I think a lot of people forget that our bloodstream, everything goes around, and it's just to transport oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So it would just need to give some oxygen to the testicle. There's no actually like blood in it.
And once it hits your liver, it's all the foreign particles and crap's in there, filtered out, and you pink.
Yeah, like you.
To those of you who have passed any kidney stones or gallstones, that's where those come from.
Past a kidney stone. That's why I can say that I've lived through childbirth.
I don't think.
Nope, but that's the closest thing that they say a man can get to.
Yeah, and I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, probably not. I don't. Yeah, nope.
So removed his own testicle to remove the tracker. I guess. Oh yeah. So
the house across our street sold.
I heard about that.
Bullshit. So we went on a spree today. I cut down a bunch of the tree that was kind of overhanging in our backyard to make it open it more.
Yep.
And then we took the play site out and put it on the side of the house because nobody was looking at the freaking side of the house.
Right.
We were thinking of extending the fence and bringing it out to the side yard to make it so that the backyard would seem more attached.
Wow. So how was your weekend?
Besides the sale pending sign going up across our yard, everything else was okay.
Sad, Barry.
Oh, pissed me off. I wanted to go over to the bat.
Who's your realtor?
Well, so like, I know the people because they looked at our house and then they went over there for like 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that it was because ours didn't have a big enough yard for 4 dogs. The yard over there is smaller.
Hey man, I didn't do it.
Yeah, you did.
I was at a wedding.
How was your wedding?
It was fun. It was honestly, once I sat down to do the ceremony, I thought our wedding ceremony was done in a hurry. They had theirs done in 10 minutes.
Well, that was like Sandy. Ours was kind of like that.
Holy cow. And they were beer
One
and
and done.
food and barbecue.
Oh, why did I get invited?
No one likes you.
It's true.
The only person who likes you is
I haven't eaten since you guys left.
I can believe that. Doesn't show though. Wow.
No. Pretty boring. But we did go watch Free Guy.
I heard. I wanted to watch. I mean, you could have waited, but I guess we're not friends or anything. So why would you wait?
Because I went on a date with my wife.
You didn't do that when I took your kid?
Yeah. We did it again.
Oh.
We had somebody else take her kid.
Oh.
But yeah, that was a good movie.
Oh, you went to the theater?
Yeah.
Well, that's weird.
You can't get it online anywhere. You have to go to the theater.
Says who? Even you?
Well, I could have. I could have done my ways.
Oh.
All right, let's not go to the end.
We're going right back live.
Oh, and nobody knows you're here yet.
Well, except for the one person watching YouTube.
Yeah, that's Sammy. All right, and we are back because, as I was saying, Derek was slamming on the door to get in.
I was.
Yeah.
You locked me out. It's hot out, man. You don't even have my mic on.
No, I didn't turn your mic on.
I was slamming on the door. It's hot out, smoky.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it almost looked like a red day because everything has that like red tint to it,
Right.
The orangey red tint.
Yeah, so you've been talking about weird, creepy stories today, huh?
Yeah, it was just when I realized that you weren't going to make it back, I was like, I need to do something because usually I don't do anything and let you do it.
Well, whatever gets it done, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're more than welcome to continue with the weird. Or I actually found a couple of things, but I mean, we got an hour and 15 minutes time. We got time.
I haven't read all these, so some of these are just new to me as I read them. Oh, the Pollock sisters prove reincarnation.
Prove reincarnation?
So today, 24% of Americans believe in reincarnation. That's oddly high.
That's a bit high.
Yeah. Although scientists tend to poo-poo the possibility, every once in a while an unsolved mystery comes around that is so compelling and otherwise unexplainable that gives scientists pause. So that's what we have with the story of the Pollock sisters. So in 1957, two young English sisters, Jonah Pollock, 11, and Jacqueline Pollock, 6, died in a tragic car accident. 1 year later, their mother gave birth to twins, Jillian and Jennifer. When the twins were old enough to talk, they began identifying and requesting toys that had belonged to their dead sisters, pointing out landmarks only their dead sisters would have known, such as a school that they'd attended, and sometimes panicking upon seeing cars idling. That they'd say, like, that car's coming to get us, or watch out for that car. After the twins turned 5, these incidents became less frequent, and the girls went on to lead normal lives. Still, the story of the Pollock sisters made its way to Dr. Ian Stevenson, who he died in 2007. But he was a psychologist who studied reincarnation. After studying thousands of supposed cases, Dr. Stevenson wrote a book telling of 14 he believed to have been real, including that of the Pollock sisters. Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Right?
Like, well, there is that big question. Well, what happens to you after you die?
Yeah, do we just get... well, it's kind of hard. So, right now, we have more people on Earth than we've ever had, but is... because you can't keep getting filtered.
Right.
So does that mean that we do keep getting filtered with our thoughts and personalities, who we are, but randomly there are new ones?
Right. Yeah, it's hard to explain. Like what I'm not the super uber religious kind, but I mean, if you have a soul, what does it do after you die?
Yeah.
Where does it go?
Like, I don't know, because it's weird. Like, I mean, well, that movie Life kind of had a cool way of showing that you have, like, your soul has, like, a little life, and then it comes down and then forgets kind of about that. And, I mean, I forget where I put the keys all the time, so I could see...
We've all had that, where we walk into the room to get something, and the minute we walk through the door, it's like, I've just been struck with amnesia. What was I?
well, like an example, today I was taking down that the play set and moving it, and I don't know how many times I looked at Sam and was like, "Can you go get this? Because I forgot it back there, and I need it to do this."
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Reincarnation would be kind of weird because
I mean, in reincarnation theory, can you come back as anything? Anything animal, human?
that would suck. Imagine
Right?
coming back as an ant.
Well, there are beliefs, and I can't remember what religion. I think it's Buddhism, that you can come back depending on how well you spent this life determines on what you come back as at the next life. So if you were slightly worse this lifetime than you were the lifetime before, you take a step down. So you go to like a frog?
Well,
and then you have to go. I got to live the best life of a frog.
Well, here's the question that you've got: is let's say that's what happens. What would you think would be the best thing to come back as? Would they assume human would be the best? But some people might be like, no, I want to be a bird. Or do you just get to come back as what you want? Or is there like this chart that the Buddhist God looks at and goes, oh yeah, you hit the human again.
Yeah. So you're. I mean, I don't know. What would be the best thing to come back as?
Like right now, humans are at the top of the food chain
Are
as
we
long
really?
as you have weapons.
Are we really? I mean, yeah. I mean, everything else seems to have a kind of. But I mean, being human is fun until you have to become an adult and you have to go to work every day and then.
Look what we're doing right now.
I know, right?
This is fun.
No. You know who has a great time every day? My 2-year-old son. He's got it made, right?
Except for when you tell him no and the lip comes out.
Yeah, but you know what? You don't care. You know why? Because you're gonna feed him and you're gonna wipe his butt.
Yeah, but you don't.
And he gets to watch cartoons all day.
You know, if you didn't listen to your wife, there would be no no's, and you could just do whatever you wanted until like the cops stopped you.
Right.
Until then, you don't have to really.
So, yeah, because people screw everything up. I don't want to come back as anything else.
Right.
I'm trying to think of a decent animal. I'm like, no, we screwed that up.
Well, I'd say like dolphin. But maybe that's why dolphins are so mean.
They are, and they're rapists.
Yes. I think they're the only other animal besides human. Oh no, I think some primates do.
Primates, probably.
I know there's a jellyfish that does. Have you ever seen the jellyfish that literally?
I'm just trying to think of what could I be that no one would mess with me because we just don't want to. Like, you don't want to be an insect or a spider or a bug because your lifespan's a week, and that's if you make it before somebody steps on you.
The only thing I can think of is like you could be like an octopus, and if you're smart enough to stay away from people.
Well, my thought was, well, a turtle. No, people gotta be jerks with turtles.
Yeah.
Right.
Spray paint their back.
Tortoises. I mean, they live like hundreds of years, right?
Yeah. Well, they live hundreds of years because it takes them 100 years to get somewhere.
Right.
And if you see if a tortoise falls on its back, it dies. So, because they can't.
Yeah, they can't flip back over unless something flips them over. Yeah.
And usually another turtle, if they find them, will
Push them over.
I'm like, so that's just two really nice old men.
How's it going, Earl?
Oh, you did it again.
or you see like lions and stuff will find like little box tortoises and stuff like that, and they'll flip them over. And the tortoise is like, oh, you can't eat me, but I'm on my back. Can you at least come back and flip me back over? Yeah. But yeah.
Well, because I think the next one here says that it's similar to the Pollock sisters.
The pool.
So this one is George and Janine Sauter of West Virginia. So this is in the States. Were forced to cope not only with the measurable loss of their children, but also the mysterious circumstances surrounding that loss. So after the Sauter home burnt to the ground the night before Christmas in 1945, 5 of the 10 Sauter children were still alive and accounted for. But what about the other 5? From all accounts, it would seem that they had vanished into thin air. Notice how we don't say vanished into smoke. Guess what that means? That means that there was 0 physical evidence of the children being burnt or even found within the home. But that wasn't all that smelt off the events of that night. Apparently, George tried to save the children who he believed were still trapped inside by using his coal truck, which strangely was inoperable. The phone lines to the house were found to have been cut. A woman claimed to have seen all 5 missing children peering from a passing car while the fire was in progress. And a woman at a Charleston hotel who saw the children's photos in the newspaper said that she had seen 4 of the 5 a week after the fire. The children were accompanied by 2 women and 2 men, all looked, I feel like this kind of racist. They all looked Italian. The lady had tried to talk to the children in a family manner, but the men approached and were hostile and wouldn't let the lady talk to them.
So we're looking at like a weird kidnapping type deal,
Right?
there, right? Like someone's like, I want kids, but I want all 10 of yours. I'll just take 5 of them.
Yeah. Well, and then like covered it up with burning down the house while people were in it, though. So like, so they kidnapped it and hoped they killed the rest.
Right, and so no one would notice.
Yeah. So like they thought that it would be kidnapping, perhaps to extort money, or trying to make George join the mafia, the local mafia. That's kind of
weird, man.
Yeah.
But I don't. That's not a reincarnation kind of thing. That's just, I think. I mean, it took place in 1945. So let's just say technology wasn't then what it is now.
No.
Like, I mean, it's hard to get away, especially with cell phones and cameras being everywhere. Like, if you even thought of committing a crime, you're probably going to get caught because somebody somewhere is either going to be filming you or you're being filmed by an ATM camera or a traffic light camera. I mean, there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
So let's face it. So anybody who's listening or believes that the government is injecting you with trackers, they don't have to, because they're looking at you.
Well, you carry one.
And the one in your pocket, right? So, but that was the crazy. I'll get into that in a minute. And this wedding where we were, there was 0 cell reception. So we spent 4 hours without cell reception.
Felt good, didn't it?
Felt weird because you constantly go to look at your phone. You're like, I can't do a damn thing with the thing because it won't do anything.
I love detoxing. Like when you go somewhere and you're stuck with it. Like when I go into the Bear Paws, and there was 0. I could do anything.
But that's spotty out there. Where we were, no, nothing. Your phone was just like, just shut me off, man. I mean, I can't do anything.
How did you get there? How do you know how to get there without the GPS?
Well, the good news is the car got us there, not my phone.
Yeah.
So, but that's just like more of a kidnapping thing. But
well, I mean,
kind of weird.
It said that there's still 1 of the children alive from the 5 that made it out, and she still to this day is offering a reward for any information on her siblings.
Right.
But I mean, like the weird thing about that, so even back then with technology being great, they should still at least find 1 body.
Well, but then they have all those kids that were separated at small age for adoption.
Yeah.
And they never find each other. But then there are the few that do.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really say though, like the ages of them, because you'd think that would come into play.
They're
I mean,
10.
If you kidnap a 10-year-old, they're going to remember being kidnapped, and they're going to remember.
Unless they were taken by somebody that they knew,
but even then, they start being like, "Where's my mommy? Where's my daddy?
Right.
Why can't I talk to them?" Because I mean, there's been instances of girls that were kidnapped at a young age, and then they broke out when they were like 18 because they remembered that it happened.
Well, that was weird. That's just. Let's hit our nerdy side a minute.
I mean, like if something like this happened where my house caught fire and they couldn't find the remains of, say, my wife and child,
you would be found with all of your hockey jerseys curled up in your fetal position.
I protected them. That'd be an unsolved story. What was it? Somebody said something. Was it a man who said that to me?
What?
I can't remember. It was so it was like a joke, and it was like a Canadian found a bottle and only give him 1 wish.
Yeah, it was Amanda that sent that.
I thought that was priceless.
Right,
that'd be the perfect way to live forever.
Right. So let's get to our nerdy side here.
Oh yeah, I'm excited now.
90-year-old granddad. Actually, I got to ask you a question. one of the greatest games that has come out in my lifetime that I've liked the most was Skyrim, right?
Yeah.
How many hours did you put in that game? God, I put in hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Yeah, I had to put a lot because I finished it, and that was on like was it the 360 when
Yeah.
it first came on? And then when it came out, kind of more when I had a PC that could run it, then I played it again on that. And then I played it on the Xbox
I don't think I
One.
actually ever finished it because they kept doing because they kept releasing stuff to do for it, and you're like, I'm gonna run around and do this.
Yeah, I would just with any game. So like even like The Witcher 3,
Right.
I put like 100 some hours.
Like it
into
built off of what Skyrim had done. Skyrim had like laid the groundwork for that game, and they're like, well, we can make that. I mean, Skyrim still ranks like 9.5 out of 10 for me as far as games go. But a 90-year-old granddad has been playing Skyrim for 10 years and still hoards all of his gear. That's awesome.
Sounds like a granddad.
Right? Hey, Grandpa, you want to play some Skyrim? The only downfall of Skyrim for me is that it didn't have like a co-op. Like that would have been sweet. But
Well,
it wasn't really built that way, right?
So now you can get mods that let you do it.
Really?
Yeah, but there are like I think there's limitations
Right.
to what you're able to do. So you can't do like everything that you could in the game. But I remember watching a mod of people doing it.
Yeah, so
I could, the hard thing that I have is I really like I like playing games, and I mean, it always gets that stigma of people saying that you play too much games. I challenge people to if they think that me playing say 2 hours of a game is more than that, but some days I don't play that much. But let's say 2 hours a day to really monitor how much TV you watch.
oh god, TV's ridiculous.
And I don't watch TV, so
So, the guy who shared the kid, I think it's his son, who shared this information, claims that his granddad has been walking around with nearly 800,000 pounds worth of gear on himself because he refuses to sell it.
well then how's he? Because he'd be over encumbered. He'd be walking really slow.
Yeah, all he does is, as any Skyrim player will know, that's more than enough to make a character over encumbered and greatly reduce your walking speed. His granddad is fine with this and gets around by drawing his bow to walk a tiny bit faster. Outstanding. Like he found a hack to make himself walk a little faster because when you draw your bow, you walk a little faster.
You see the difference in the generations, though. That guy has got the patience of an animal,
Right? Like it just goes to show that your patience just grows as you get a little older, right? You start to like, yeah, whatever.
Like for you or I, we'd be like, "Oh, we got to get to that town as quick as possible so we can finish this."
Well, so when the game first came out, I unlocked the entire map, and people are like, "How did you do that?" Well, I walked everywhere because I didn't know because I just clicked through the intro part that you could just fast track to places. You could take the stupid horse and a cart guy and go, "Where do you want to go?" And he would take you there.
But then you'd miss all the fun stuff.
So I literally walked the entire map,
Man, it's taking a while. That's why you put hundreds of
and I would never take the road. Right?
Well, no.
You gotta hop, skip, and jump over the mountains. That takes you 25 hours to jump.
I
over.
used to hate when you're like, "Oh, I just got to go over here," and then you get there and you look up and you're like, "There's a mountain in the way."
I'm going over.
I'm
it.
going over it. Yeah.
I always went over.
No,
And you get kind of stuck, but you'd unstuck enough to where you'd slowly climb it. And you're like, man, if I'd have just went around, I'd be there already. But
Did you ever do the thing where you took a horse up to the top of the mountain?
well, yeah, and then you run off the top.
Well, you run it off and you'll just
Because-
ragdoll down.
Well, the thing is, the horse will die
But you
as it hits the ground, but you will not.
Yeah.
But if you do it without the horse, of course, you die.
Yeah.
Because physics, that's how physics works. So if you bail off your horse just before you hit the ground, you're not going to die.
I think the thing that made that game so crazy is if somebody listening is somewhat of a gamer and hasn't played it,
You should play
it's literally any Elder Scrolls game, but like Morrowind and up, I think are the more.
Oblivion was a letdown for a lot of people who liked liked the
Yeah.
Elder Scrolls games because it was so different.
But you can create your own spells and weapons in it. So, like I remember it was in Morrowind where I wanted to see what happened. You had so much gold if you did the right things in that.
Mhm.
So you could create anything you wanted. And I made a scroll of jumping, and I made it so powerful that when I hit the space bar to jump, it took me 10 minutes before I started coming back down, and then I just died when I hit the ground.
So I remember playing Morrowind the first time when it come, just shortly after it came out, and that's when they first started the first person hack and slash style, to where you had to look at something to hit it. And I was so used to third person over the shoulder, I could see what I'm gonna, and I was like, I can't hit it. This is stupid. It's never gonna work. Every single game since then gives you the option to be the first person hack and slash style, not just the over the shoulder.
Yeah, I like doing both, but I like the third person view for when you're like, what's around that corner?
Oh yeah, you're being stealthy. And in Skyrim, and I'm gonna tell you, if anybody here has yet to play Skyrim, you're gonna start out, I want to be a mage. You're gonna end up being a rogue.
Okay.
You are gonna end up sniping people with a bow.
Yeah, mage can be strong, but it's in the end you just end up casting a stream of fire at things.
Mm-hmm.
But as a rogue, you can stealth right in front of somebody and then hit them and kill them. And they ragdoll. They like flip through the air.
Yeah, it's great. So yeah.
Oh man,
It's 5 after the hour.
Yes, it's top of the hour. You are listening to Average Rants here at KNMC
90.1
FM.
You didn't get to do that earlier.
So much better doing that. But
I was listening in the car.
I know, man, it was messaging me. But don't forget today at 5
when
p.m.
you're done listening to us.
Yeah, as soon as you're done listening to us, Chips and Salsa Tour is happening. And go to Triple Dog. It is free. I repeat, it is free if you go there, and it is being sponsored by us. I believe that's what the note said. Yes, it is a KNMC sponsored show. So go out there, support who we support. Right?
Right.
Right. And
hey, so I think there's an arrow drawn to that for a reason. Opaz is performing a Triple Dog.
that's what I just talked about.
Oh, is that what it is? You said something about salsa.
Yeah, Chips and Salsa Tour.
Oh, well, Isaac Opaz.
I'm glad you could say it because I was like, oh, Piaz.
It's called reading. Did they not teach you how to do that?
You guys like spell weird. Because I wanted to say Opaz.
There's no E or a D.
What?
Opaz?
Zed. Opaz Zed?
Opatz. Opaz. You're special.
I know.
Not in a good way.
It's a good way. So we got story time happening at the Haverhill County Library tomorrow. That is at 9:15 a.m.
Saturday markets, man, for another week or two.
Yeah.
Go to that.
We made dill pickles.
I saw you made a buttload of pickles,
we got
man.
a lot of them. I hope they turned out okay.
Did all your cans pop?
Well, I don't have a boiling pot. I don't have a pot big enough. So we do the pour boiling water in them and then close them quick.
Yeah.
And for the most part, all of them seem to be sealed last I checked. So I'm hoping. But last time some didn't seal in the long run. We just put them in the fridge and they still.
You have to eat them right away. They don't taste as dilly. They're not as pickled, but
yeah.
Well, if you slice them up though, they pickle faster.
Well, where were you guys? You could have been. We could have had a pickle party.
You could have. Well, no, we wouldn't have worked at the wedding.
Yeah, you guys just abandoned us this week.
I know.
Insulting, really.
Wow. What a baby. Anywho, so I found an interesting story. Don't know how legit it is, but it sounds cool to me.
Yeah.
Did archaeologists find the Trojan horse? Everybody knows this story, right?
Yeah.
Right. Siege of Troy. Okay, don't forget the stupid Brad Pitt movie that takes place over the course of about a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's crap. The Siege of Troy took months, probably years. But they eventually supposedly broke in by building a giant hollow horse, and they just pulled him in.
Yeah.
But Turkish archaeologists excavating the site of the city of Troy, which we have proven did exist. For a long time, they didn't think it did, but then they found it. Whoa.
I guess it existed.
Right? Well, it doesn't say, like, welcome to Troy, but it fit where it was. Yeah, right? Welcome to Troy. Really? It's even in Greek.
Casinos.
But it fit the location of where they had said it was and fit the description and all. But they've discovered a large wooden structure that they believe to be the remains of the famous Trojan horse. They discovered the large wooden structure that they believe are the remains of the horse. These excavations include dozens of fir planks and beams up to 15 meters long. That's a long beam.
Do you know how long 15 meters is?
49 feet.
You looked it up.
Assembled in a strange form. It says it right there.
Oh, it's right there. That's why. You did that really quick.
I know math.
Yeah, okay.
There's 3.2 feet in a meter or something. Yeah. The wooden structure was found inside the ancient city of Troy. Now, Boston University professors Christine Morris and Chris Wilson believe that the carbon dating tests and other analysis have all suggested that the wooden pieces and other artifacts date from the 12th or 11th centuries BC. I mean, that matches the dates cited for the Trojan War by ancient historians such as Okay, I might butcher these. Aristides, not happening, and Proclus. But I mean, that's kind of neat. I mean, I've read the Iliad before, and like I said, if you've seen the movie Troy with Brad Pitt, you get an idea. But most of the movie is complete garbage.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Like,
I don't care who you are in a battle. Like, you see all these battles of all these like great heroes that are like fighting.
Well,
and
in their defense, Brad Pitt was playing a demigod.
Still, 10 people on one, I don't think you're gonna win, no matter what's going on.
You know, you never know.
Because like you watch in a movie, when you see a 10-on-1, what ends up happening?
Come on,
It turns into a 1-on-1 fight.
John Wick always comes out on top.
Yeah, there's no way.
Let's ask Keanu.
Well, like I would love to get like
two guys in a bar with a pencil. Who can do that? Nobody can do that.
If I challenge I would like to find like the best paintballer in the world.
You're looking at him.
And then challenge him to take on 10 people at the same time by himself.
That depends. Trained? Untrained?
Oh, just like me.
Oh, you die.
Bring it on.
Oh, dude,
I can take you one-on-one.
I've played against professional paintballers. You would die. They would take you so fast.
I'm just saying, like you against 10 guys like me in skill level.
I'm not a pro. I was just kidding.
But even like pros.
But I've played with pro paintballers, and they're what we like to call good.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's like you take on 5 other guys. When we play hockey, man, you take on 5 other guys from another team who comes out on top. If you try, who's getting a goal?
Well, you against beginners?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
But no, so I guess my thought is like think of it with swords back in the day. If there's 10 people around you all swinging swords, there's no way that you're not.
You're gonna come out with some scrapes and bruises, but you could win.
Scrapes.
You could win.
You'd have like.
I read enough fantasy novels to know that you probably die, but they always come out on top because you get.
Well, we play Dungeons and Dragons. If there's one person.
You survived. You took on a green dragon by yourself, basically, the other day, right?
I didn't do any damage to it, but I dodged it
you took a ton of damage, didn't you?
Well, no, I dodged so much.
But I mean, the fact that we're finding these things that people thought were myths.
It is cool,
right?
I've always
the possibility of the now. I guess the climate there suggests it could be dry enough and stuff for the wood not to rot. And disintegrate, right?
Well, the thing is like people will sit there and they say, and I've thought about this, where you're like, there's no way. Like if I was the ruler of this city that is impenetrable, and all of a sudden there's this horse that gets pushed up and left there, I'm gonna be like, why do I want to? Because remember, it was the Trojans, and that was their icon.
Right.
I would be like, why do I want to keep their icon in my building? Burn it down. Like just
the Trojans were the ones on the defense, not the Greeks were the one who built the horse. Yes. Troy, the Trojans, from the city of Troy.
Like I don't know nothing.
Worshipped the gods, and so what they believed is that the Greeks had left it as an offering to Poseidon for a safe journey home.
But you'd think that they would have done something. There's no way that, like, how many people were in that horse?
I guarantee you there was like 4 guys going, I wouldn't touch it, set it on fire. And how did they not hear the one dude inside the horse who farted?
Well, that, or it's like, because it would have been moved, guarded, they would have been looking at it, and then people would have saw it. Somebody's going to
I mean, where I can't say because I've never been to the shores of Troy, but 90, what did I say that thing was 90 feet?
Yeah.
From a distance, you're going to see it being built. Were they built? I don't know.
Well, overnight. How did this giant thing get there?
How many dudes pulled it?
Yeah.
Like, we got no guards at the gate?
They got nobody watching at night. Well, there's a battle going on. I don't know. It's just, but it's one of those things, though. Let's say that we talk like that, but back then, if it had never been done, are our thoughts into that because we know this story?
Right.
Or because we just actually are more.
Well, I would fully believe that a paganistic group such as the Trojans could fall for something like that. But my issue is how did they not see it? Like I said, it's 100 feet.
Yeah, that sucker.
Like somebody had.
Yeah,
like,
I
I don't like living here anyway, so I'm just not gonna say anything.
Yeah, did you guys? Yeah, how did that go? Well, or it was. They built it and they kept building it at night. Right. It would have taken more than one night.
Oh man, yeah.
So they built it, and then each night it was those night guards that are like nothing ever happened at night.
They paid them off. The Greeks paid them off,
or they fell asleep, and then the one guy when it
was you and me on guard duty. We're just like,
so like it finally gets pushed up, and then the guard's like, "How did this get here? I don't."
You were supposed to stay awake, man.
Those 2 guys went. It fell from the sky.
Right.
We saw it. It's like
the gods just boom.
Yeah, and then because I mean, if that kind of situation happened back then, if somebody said the gods put it there, you would get that.
I gotta say, my favorite interpretation of that whole legend is the Peabody and Sherman movie, where they're going up and they end up entering through the butt.
Yeah.
So like the horse poops them out.
Yep. It's a Pez dispenser.
But I mean, if they did find it, cool. I mean, they'll never prove that it was actually pieces of the Trojan horse because they burned the city of Troy.
Well, I mean, the cool thing though is that if they did find something, it is cool that the Turkish government is letting other people kind of look at it.
And what else is kind of neat is like they have found the city of Troy, right? They believe they know that this is the city of Troy. So what else would it be? I mean, what else would the 100 feet pieces of lumber be built for?
Oh, maybe they're going to build a boat.
Cool, maybe.
And then make people carry it from their city.
Right. I mean, the Trojans. I mean, their army had never been beaten.
Well, it wasn't their wall.
No one had ever penetrated their defenses.
I think their army had been beaten before, but they've never been defeated.
But then you got to get into the whole mythology behind it. How they stole the princess Helen of Troy, Helen of actually Sparta. This is what's cool. Like you irritated the Spartans. They were a super nice group of guys. You look a little weak as a baby. Later, toss you off a cliff.
You can't hold this pencil right yet.
No, we're going. I mean, Spartans were built for war. Unless, yet again, another movie poorly depicts the actual events in 300. But they were actually full. They weren't. Man, those guys are stacked. But they were actually wearing bronze armor and spears. But they weren't out there shirtless. Although.
Well, that's how I fight.
Right, shirtless, 6-pack.
Come on.
You and Gerard Butler eating an apple.
How many times have you seen because we've seen videos of people fighting online, like actual people on the street. Why do they always take the shirt?
It's the same reason and I can explain this in terms you understand. In hockey, you remember back in the late 70s, early 80s, before they made the rules about having to have your pads actually strapped to you.
Yeah.
There were guys that would cut all of their pad straps, the goons. What reason did they do this for? So when the guy would grab them to hold on to them, it would come off. Now you got nothing but slippery man boobs to grab onto,
Yeah,
and you can't grab them.
I've been in a couple of fights, and every time the guy does that, it's always a bad choice for him.
Right. And here's also another theory. Would you get into a fight with a completely naked dude?
Depends who my fight.
Would you full on bear hugging and get up in there?
Oh, we're gonna have to pass on that.
Those are gonna touch you.
Well, was it you that I was talking to that if you ever got to a fight, just strip down?
Strip down naked and the fight will end.
Yeah.
It's like,
Nobody will fight you.
I'm not touching that.
Be like, you want to go? You want to go? Start taking off your
Your
pants. They're
pants.
like, whoa.
Exactly. That's how you end the fight before it starts.
And
Why?
then-
Because I am not gonna win.
But you'd brag about it. Don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
lie. If you stripped nude and the guy's like,
Well, you just
okay,
start
I'm
with
done.
your pants first. It's like, no, I wasn't gonna go completely nude. I left my shirt on.
But I would even tell people, I'm like, what? Yeah. They're like, but he told us that you stripped down completely naked.
Why don't I
We're
get
like,
blood on my
well,
clothes?
he couldn't handle it.
Right?
He saw what I was given and he just couldn't take
The dad bod.
it. He knew it was coming. It was the hurricane.
Yeah, the hurricane. But yeah, so I mean, then the Trojans are like, you know what? Let's pick a fight with Sparta.
Yep.
Now those guys didn't lose many battles.
But in the end, they don't exist.
They exist in football teams. I know that.
Yeah.
Trojans. I don't think the Spartans have. Yeah, Michigan State Spartans. On another note, for you don't care because you hate it, but football season started, preseason, but it counts,
When did it end?
right? Which means hockey is just a little bit closer, Barry. And I see your favorite player signed with Florida,
What favorite?
Joe Thornton.
Thank goodness.
1 year deal,
Oh.
$750K to go to Florida.
Oh, good.
He's overpaid,
Yeah.
but he wants a cup. I think he deserves a cup. I don't know if
Florida
Florida's.
wants a cup, but I mean, yeah, Florida is not the true. Did they make the playoffs?
Yeah.
I don't even remember them being in it.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
they probably lost to Montreal.
they did actually.
But I gotta tell you this, Thomas. I ran into Thomas Klein while I was golfing in Chinook.
You went golfing in Chinook?
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Nice.
Oh, did they get it off? Like no more hard top?
Yeah. So like
If you get it off course,
the greens were really good. I wasn't expecting them to be as good as they were. And the fairways were decent.
did they have
It
the
was just-
clubhouse open?
Yeah, you could walk in and grab keys and.
I mean, do they have a guy working there? Or
No,
you
no,
just write
walk
write
in,
him a
we-
check and
yeah.
cash or whatever.
But I mean, I was pleasantly surprised, and it was actually.
How'd you do?
Well, that's what I was just gonna double check.
Oh, you can look at your score.
Yeah, because I could look at it, and I got a birdie.
Whoa, was it on that par 3?
The one that goes downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hit it. I hit an 8 from the top there, and my indent just went, and then it moved just a little bit. And I was like 2 feet from the hole.
I've done that on that one with a 9. I did that. I can't remember if it was like a 9 iron or 8 or whatever. I was a foot from the hole. Yeah. I only did it once. I used to play there quite a bit. Because the dog legs play my slice. So that's really nice.
Well, there was that, and there wasn't really bad out of bounds places.
No, but there's not a lot of trees. I mean, you watch the hedgerows though, because the snakes. But you know, it's been a few years since I've played Chinook. Might have to play it before season's over.
Yeah, well, I mean, we still have to do 18 before I go back to school, and I go back to school in a week.
You don't go to school on Saturdays, and that's when we play golf.
All right.
You're right. I'm gonna whine.
Yeah. I got a 49.
Not bad.
And the only reason why it was a 49 was I took a 10 on a hole because, dear God, the mosquitoes were horrible. Like, so bad that I was just.
That would
I
be
don't
like
care.
next to the 9th hole. There's a pond on that 9th hole.
Well, so I did the first was getting eaten alive. Went to do the second, and I couldn't even see. They were getting in my eyes. So I just went, screw it, and I was there with Scott. And he's like, well, we got to finish the hole. I was like, I guess I take a 10 because I couldn't do it.
Right.
And so I'd only shot 2 and then ran to go I went to Town Pump to buy bug spray. And then once I bug sprayed up, it was fine.
Right.
But I ran into Thomas there.
That was the original point.
And he said that he found this group that does the coolest thing for hockey. You sign up as an individual playing in the tournament. You go to the tournament. Then they have a tryout kind of thing. So everybody goes out and plays a couple little practice scrimmages while the captains sit up in this bar and pick their team. So they draft their team,
Right.
the people out there. Then once that is done, you all go to a bar and they have an actual draft where they call you by name, and when you come up, they hand you your jersey, and then they take pictures of
Nice.
you, and then they make hockey cards, and then put your stats on them from the tournament after it's done.
Wow. So how does that work for a goaltender? My save percentage would be like 5.
It was just, I was like, are you kidding? This would be
fun.
It would be so fun. And I was like, why don't we do that something like that here?
Well, we could. I mean, with our adults, right?
Oh, it would just be fun to have like an actual draft tournament where we don't have to worry about the teams. There's nobody arguing about that. And my hope would be is that people wouldn't look at it as it being competitive, but being more fun. Because you could get put on any team. So you might get out there and a guy like me might be with all
Well, here's my question, because of and this is, our wives are gonna hate us for talking hockey. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. Do you separate the skill levels?
I don't know.
Because what I mean,
you could have like a beginner draft.
Well, here's the thing, because I mean, we don't have enough players left to do that. I mean, we get enough barely to support one, maybe 1.5 full teams of say beginner skaters on a given night, and same with the advanced. But if you put the two together, you probably have enough for 2 teams, easy, with 3 or 4 lines, right?
Yeah.
Which would be ideal. You don't want to die. So I mean, would you have a pool of, you'd write the captains would know. You'd have to get experienced players to be your captains, right? So they know what they're looking at, is what I would do.
Yeah.
And we would rank it like we rank our players, between 1 and 5. I'm a 1, you are a 4, 3, 4, somewhere in there. You float.
The
Right.
way that, because I was thinking about this with like Sammy and what you could do to try to do it in Montana. Because you got to remember, if I was doing this with this group,
Right.
they go to like Las Vegas and they go to big cities,
Right.
and it's such a big pool that they're going to get that you could do many teams.
What I'm just saying is that like the few players that we do have, I mean, the skill level jumps so much between. So, I mean, yeah.
But I mean, how fun would it be?
I would do it.
Like, think of the Lewistown tournament. If instead of making the team that you guys like make and go down,
Right.
Like our wives went and did that one,
Right.
Instead of doing that, all the people involved in that tournament throw their names into a draft, and then you come down and you have a semi-practice where it's like, okay, we want this group of people randomly on the ice at this time, then we'll have this group, and then people are sitting there being like, I want them. And then, because the way the draft work is like, oh, this guy picks one, then you pick one, and nobody knows that this is happening in the background. Well, they know, but they're not seeing who's getting picked.
Right.
And I thought if we did something like that here in Montana, the way that you would make it so that the captain's kind of fair is whatever city is hosting it, they can't have a captain. Because then they're less likely to know who to pick. And if you pick the captains at random, because it would be funny. You don't know as much about hockey as I do.
Nope.
But it would be hella fun to have you be there, sitting there and be like, I want that guy because he can skate.
Well, here's the one thing that I know that would I mean, it kind of contradicts my point of the skill levels, but when I play with better players, it kind of makes it so your skill level brings mine up a bit, because when I play with the high end rec guys, they're a little bit better at knowing where to be, when to be there, right? So you're my defenseman. You, which honestly sometimes I think you blow it on purpose. Well, you got to try. And we've seen it with beginners who stay out and play with the high rec guys. They get like 3 or 4 goals. Now, why is this happening? Well, the beginner's like, I'm doing great. I'm doing everything. Well, everyone else around you on your team knows where to be, and they're like, well, I'll just,
Yeah.
So, and we've seen this. Like when I skate out with better players, I obviously look a little bit better than I would if I was skating around with a bunch of newbies, a bunch of people who don't know what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So your opportunities open up.
I don't know. I just thought it would be because like the biggest grief that I have, I guess, with a lot of tournaments that I go to in Montana is they always seem to lie about their skill level.
They just don't know. It's not that they lie about it. It's like, are you in denial about how good or how bad you really are?
Well, like the biggest, I guess,
and that's not just players, right? Even players in the NHL, you have to go in the mindset going, I'm the best player at my position, right?
Well, I mean, because like we went to a tournament down in Bozeman, and Bozeman has like a professional, semi-pro kind of.
They have a full
full checking adult league,
right?
And when we go to this tournament, it said 3.5 had to be your average. Anybody that was considered a 5 on your team or a 4 had to have green tape on it. We played against a team that had half of their best adult team in that checking league.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, none of them had green tape on it. And they're trying to say that they're
right.
And when we pointed out, they said, yeah, well, they're running the tournament. So it was like stuff like that kind of hurts me. And I mean, let's be honest, we've been at tournaments where
tournament stacking happens.
So this would take that away.
Right.
It would completely obliterate it, and it would also make it so that people would get to meet other people that want to play hockey, and then you might get on other teams for other tournaments.
You could always put it into where, like I said, you got. And I think the 1 to 5 system's okay, but I think it could be improved on. Is there's too much of a gap between a 2 and a 4, and a 2 and a 3. The gap is way too big for talent-wise. But you could go. You have to pick. This is your round. You have to pick a 1. Now you have to pick a 2. Now you have to pick a 3. Now you have to pick. I don't think you're going to find many more than better than a 4.
Yeah.
5. You should be playing pro hockey somewhere.
Well, I think it would be fun. So, like, if we did, let's say we did a beginner and an intermediate version of this, and
1 through 3.
You do the beginners. The beginners are out there playing, and if all the captains go, that guy should be intermediate. They move them up to the other tournament.
Oh yeah, you could easily do it.
And as long as that tournament if both were happening on the same day, that would fix that problem.
It'd be nice, but you have to have the honesty of the people that win.
Yeah, and that's always the hard part.
And unfortunately, everybody's competitive and they want to win. Like I said, stacking teams happens all the time in tournaments.
Yeah, it just kind of sucks.
Right.
I've been to a couple tournaments where I felt like the teams were fairly even, and it was just.
Well, when we did that turn, and we kind of. I'm not saying we fully stacked that team to take the Great Falls, but we were all of us were the proper skill level except for 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we everybody should have been in that but me.
And we won all of our games, which sounds like, well, you must have. No, we won by 1 goal, 2 goals. I think our biggest win was by 3 goals.
Yeah, and that team kind of were fighting each other. They were getting mad at each other and yelling.
Well, we were playing really, really well. And it was more of a concept that was beating them. Not our team per se, but our concept was beating them.
Yeah,
we were playing a positional play, and they just they would chase us. They just chase the puck. So it was.
It's so weird when the clicks, because I think I told you I was watching my niece play, and
you were like, "Oh my god, they're running the 1-2-2."
They are 11 years old. So 11 years old, and
that's their sports, man.
I watched 4 of her games, and every team was running systems.
Right.
And yet, people around some place tell me that you shouldn't learn it that young. You can't learn it that young.
Well, it's not that you just go out and tell them you're going to learn the 1-2-2. You're just like, I want you to stand here.
No, you break it down.
I want you to. You're here. You're here. When he leaves his spot because he has to go do something else, you take his spot.
Yeah, and it was just.
This is how we did this with the adults. We actually did this. We didn't even teach the 1-2-2. It just kind of turned into it. When we went out, we would do the little 3-on-3 drills. You're going to stay here, you're going to stay here, and you're going to be in front of the net. When this guy leaves in front of the net, what are you going to do? You could go take his place.
I don't even know. Like, it was just so fun to watch kids that are around 11. So at one point, and this was before I realized that they were doing it, they were in front of a bench. The puck was against the boards, and 2 girls came in. So 1 from each team. They were battling for it. They weren't winning. So then 1 from the other team decided to come in and try to help.
Ouch.
So then that meant that 1 from the other side went in to help. But then all the other ones were just waiting for that puck to come out, and I was like,
I'm not gonna lie, it's hard to be out on the ice and watching your teammate or two in a corner battle, and you're like, I should go help.
"Yep,
No, don't. Because all you're doing is you're hamstringing yourself. So if that puck breaks out, you gotta chase it to either the other end or it's going in your net because you're not in your spot.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but
that's fun.
it was just really cool, and I
No,
really enjoyed seeing.
I think it would be a lot of fun to run a fantasy style draft for a small tournament style thing.
Yeah, I think it would be fun, and I think people would get, because especially if people know that because it would be a higher cost because of the jerseys.
Right.
If people know that they're getting a jersey at the end, and then they can tell people about this fun experience that they had being drafted. And I mean, in the end, you don't even need a trophy or anything. You just have it like a tournament, and they're like, "Yeah, you guys won."
There's always a trophy.
Yeah, but they're like, "Well, now you have to go to the Stanley Cup playoffs."
So.
But no, when he told me about that, he explained it to me. I was like, so if you do the one in like Vegas and that one that he was talking about, it's $1,000 per person.
Oh, per person. Oh, yeah.
And I was
because you're paying. Well, they got to pay for ice time, which isn't cheap.
Not in big cities, no.
Ice time here is ridiculously cheap. I mean,
yeah,
next to nothing. But I mean, you're paying for ice time, you're paying for jerseys, and you got to pay the rest, and you have to pay, everything. So, but I mean, it's a full on. But I mean, if your $1,000 gets you a really sweet custom jersey that's yours, it's got your name on it. Hopefully, nobody takes your number. We all know what number I am because, well, I'm immature.
69.
Yeah, I know. Because it's hilarious. Dominique even pointed it out at the tournament.
You know what's funny?
What? My goalie jersey's not.
So my buddy and I was 9 and he was 6. And it was because I used to pass it to him. So it'd be like goal by number 6, assisted by number 9, and we used to laugh at
Right.
People always ask, they're like, "Did you like number 9 because of Wayne Gretzky?" And I was like, "No, because my buddy was number 6."
Together we make 96, and that's Charlie Conway's number.
Yeah.
From the Mighty Ducks. He was the captain. So, anywho, hockey talk. I'm ready for hockey season, I ain't gonna lie.
Oh, I am.
But,
I got new skates to try. I just got to get them sharpened.
well, you were going to get to try them out in a contact league, but I don't know how that's going to go.
That kind of sucks. And I'm going to get, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, if it is happening, you guys got, what, a week?
Well, apparently that nothing was scheduled to start until October. So,
well, okay.
But still, I mean, if they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have to wait another year," I don't think I'll be able to handle it anymore.
Maybe.
Did you find something else? It looks like you.
Sport. Some nerdy. Well, some like it's nerdish. It's not video games or anything, but scientists have conducted tests that reveal Stonehenge is made from a nearly indestructible ancient material. That would explain why it's been there forever.
Yeah, especially with because I thought that they would corrode and stuff in the water, but they never have.
Rare core sample. They haven't been allowed to do this for a very long time because they figured out that if they just kept letting people take pieces of it, well, eventually you're going to run out. Removed years ago that they found again contains a form of quartz that does not erode or crumble.
Now, do you think they knew that when they built it?
Well, I don't think that they knew that, but I think it's more of along the lines that they got lucky. And I think what they knew is that anybody can walk out and go, "This is sandstone, soft, you can break it, right?"
Yeah.
And you go grab a different. This one's harder. Well, in Stonehenge, the quarry for the stone that they use at Stonehenge is like 90 miles away from where they're at. Some of these stones weigh more than cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're like, why didn't they take the rocks that were closer? Well, they knew about those ones over there that were a lot tougher. And they wanted to pay great tribute to, well, whomever they did. I mean, they still don't even really know what it was for.
Just clearly portals to another dimension if you want to do it right.
It would totally do that.
That's why they look like portals.
Right? I mean, seriously. But I'm just saying that the stone is made from 99.7% quartz crystal. So there's no sand or dirt to erode. It's basically natural occurring glass.
That was pretty interesting. I mean,
And it would, I mean, not that they knew it would last forever, but they knew it would last a long time. And it's really hard to shape. I mean, I get a kick out of it. And you kind of touched on it earlier a little bit. I think it's like we have this misguided thinking that the ancient people were stupid. I took them forever to discover the world. Well, let's be honest. Most inventions don't happen because you don't need them. It becomes there's a problem and I can't figure out the problem.
Yeah.
How long did it take to discover the wheel? Well, how long did it take till they needed it?
Well, I mean, think about the first bathroom. It was probably because they were sick of their guy up the hill peeing in the trail coming down to their house.
Right? I'm gonna plumb something in so it doesn't go down my yard anymore. Well, actually, it spread the plague. So the modern bathrooms came to play after the plague because, well, apparently throwing your poo and your bucket of waste out the window wasn't working right. The Romans had figured this out centuries before, but the Dark Ages kind of threw that out the window. The Romans were the first to do sewer systems and aqueducts and water, right? Well, as far as I know, which I thought was a really interesting story you talked about earlier about, we're like, with the Brazil thing, like, no, you can't say that the Romans were here. That screws everything up.
Yeah.
Well, that's stupid.
Well, I mean,
but for years they've come back to tell us this is crap that Columbus landed at Plymouth Rock. No, he didn't. Columbus never set foot on North America. Not once. He set foot on an island south of Florida. He's like, that's close enough.
Well, I mean,
I thought it was China.
Well, because you got to remember, so many people thought that it'd be China. That how many people actually crossed and was like, oh, this just must be another piece of land because this isn't China.
Well, and here's what's crazy. And I'm a History Channel stupid. I love the History Channel and Discovery Channel. They have found ancient coins from Crete that have something weird stamped on them. It's someplace. They don't know where it is. It looks oddly like Florida with the islands at the bottom of it. My brain died. What's the islands down there?
Bahamas.
The Bahamas. You put it next to a map of America, you're like, it's not perfect. But what map 3,000 years ago was perfect?
Yeah.
But they're like, nowhere else in the world does it look like Florida. There's nowhere else in the earth that looks like Florida.
Yeah.
With some islands in there. It was like, well, where did they get that? And someone just scribbled it? No, we don't do that. That's not the way people work.
Yeah, because I mean, let's be honest. How often do we get lost?
All the time.
So who's not to say that somebody was sailing and got lost?
Right.
And the way that the currents are, you could have been drifted somewhere separate than what you thought, and then thrown over across the sea.
So to find Romans on the other side, or in Brazil, it's not on the other side of the Pacific there. So that doesn't strike me as that weird because it would be a long haul. Let's just put it that way. Because they would probably go up towards Greenland, right? Because you're going to stay next to land.
Yeah.
Their sailing vessels weren't really meant for wide open seas, but they could do it. But they would probably do like the Vikings did, and just kind of hang out, go up to Greenland, you hit Iceland, you jump out, you jump down, and you just follow down the coastline.
Well, I think, like we look at what our seas are like right now. I don't think we really know or have an accurate description of what they were like back then.
Right.
Like, were they as rough? Has changes in the atmosphere made it so that
we were actually closer. You got to remember, we're a puzzle. You could put us together. They do it all the time. Like, look, these pieces fit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some gaps and stuff because, well,
Rocks
erosion. Yeah. Like, there's pieces of Africa in South America. Like, they figured this out. Like, there's a piece of this African mountain. What's it doing here? Well, they were attached, and they just kind of pulled apart.
Yeah.
But they were actually closer. You go back 4,000 years or 3,000 years. They were close. I mean, not like ridiculously closer, but they were closer. We move like an inch apart every year because of plate tectonics. And I don't want to do the math on that.
Nope.
4,000 inches. How many feet is that?
4,000. It's a lot.
It's like 25 feet. I don't know.
It's not 25 feet. I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, that's why we don't do math on this show. We don't
know that.
But I mean, we were at one point closer. I mean, who's to say?
Yeah.
It's 333 feet.
Oh, look at you.
Look at the
calculator.
So, but I thought that was kind of like, I want to learn more about why the Romans were down in Brazil, unless that still doesn't make any sense. Like I can't fathom a way of like, well, unless somebody no. I mean, the only people that we know that were in contact with Rome were the Vikings.
Some of the weird things that involved with it were that they had the jars,
right?
And none of the jars have been damaged. They're actually perfectly contained underwater, and there's material around them that they don't know what it is. But you got to remember, Brazil also went, nobody's allowed to go look at this.
Mm-hmm.
So there hasn't been a lot of testing on it. But when the guy discovered it, he didn't know what material was surrounding it.
Now, it's not saying it's an unknown material. He didn't know what it is, right?
Yes.
And they won't allow them to test it to see where it came from.
So, but he said it was just weird, and he'd never seen it before.
Right.
So it was unknown to him, and it was about the size of a tennis court, I believe he said, of those jars perfectly laid out.
Let's look at this. Like, remember, like people, like I said, people don't do things for no reason, right? We do things based on things we've seen. This is what we draw. We come with creativity. Yes, we add things to it, but it comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
There are pyramids on every single continent, except Antarctica, but that's because the big giant ice cube.
That we know of.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's right next to the Nazi base.
Yeah, I was just to say.
It's right next to the Nazi base, and that's where the Predator and the aliens fight. Right. They just have to find it. It's under 18,000 feet ice. But there are pyramids on every single continent. Well, where do you get, like, I get it, it's the most sound and solid structure. Somebody had to come up with it first.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then back then, so let's say Aztecs and Egyptians. Let's say the Egyptians started building this temple. The Aztecs wouldn't have been like, hey, what are they doing? They wouldn't even know.
No.
So it just, I don't know, it's kind of weird because then you also look at, like, that's knowledge just evolving.
Right.
Right? Because that's people understanding it, and then you don't, like, I don't know off the top of my head who did it first or whatever. Or
the theory is that the Egyptians had done it long before anybody else.
Yeah.
The oldest pyramids are in Africa. That's where they say the species started, as we are considered. Now, there are things that might throw the monkey wrench into that, but
hey, we don't know.
We don't know.
No, but I don't know. It's just kind of cool because, like, you think of the one thing that always got me is, like, with the British and the French and the Spanish, they wanted to colonize. They came over to North America, and there was already people here.
Right.
Everything was fine. Like, the natives were thriving. They didn't need cars. They didn't need any of that stuff. But everybody always believes that they know better.
Right.
And that's common, but it's just so weird to think that, what would happen if?
Well, here's a question for you.
Like,
why did Europe they call it the old country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why did they evolve technology so much faster than we did over here?
From my thought process of, like, in history classes and stuff, it was, the more you take over other people's culture, the more you learn from the cultures that you're taking over.
Right.
So they would evolve by expanding.
Hence why Rome was the most technologically advanced.
Yeah, they were literally stealing the scientists from other.
They stole everything.
Yeah. So they would steal all the technology, and then they'd be like, hey, what is this? And then they'd go, well, this works with this better. And then they would merge the two together and create something nobody had seen before.
Right.
And that's what it was, and that's what happens. And
But so what we're saying is here, everybody was like, you know what? We're basic. We like it. You don't bother us. We don't bother you for the most time.
well, like the biggest thing with like natives versus, I guess we'll just say North Americans at the time.
Because they have a common ancestry, right?
Yeah.
They according to widely spread and believed history is that they came across the land bridge. It's the only way they could have gotten here. Unless they figured out how to build a boat.
Well, let's just say, like, we look at them and they go, the one thing that they found was tribes didn't really fight with each other. And if they did, if somebody got killed, they stopped fighting. So it would be like a fight, and as soon as somebody got severely hurt or killed, the fight would be over and that side lost. Right? Because they didn't want to kill one another. They didn't have the numbers to do that. So then that would end it, and then the tribes usually just end up merging. But what happens in British kind of stuff would be they take it over, and they just kill you.
Right.
And it didn't matter how many. Like I can't remember what I was watching, but it was they came in, they found a tribe that was like just didn't know all this stuff existed in the outside world, and this was in Brazil somewhere. And they sat down and they started kind of talking, and they had an interpreter for this tribe, and they were talking about like war, and he was explaining kind of how war works for them and like the fights, and that's where they said, well, like if one person dies, we stop because we don't. And then they were explaining what wars were like for us, and they're like, oh, hundreds of thousands of people died. He's like, what, you mean like 10? Because he was so lost that we would let that many people
couldn't contemplate the number, right?
Yeah, couldn't contemplate that many people would get killed in a fight.
Right.
And it was that kind of stuff that just makes you be like, Jesus, man, like.
There's so much unknown. Like they found in North America, because they talk about it, we didn't get discovered till 15th century, 14th century. A load of crap. There are people who've been coming here for long before that. There are copper mines. They're abandoned now, empty, old, ancient copper mines because there's no bracing. They just dug a hole and took the copper. But what they figured out, what they were doing is when they were finding these weapons, these copper weapons and copper tools over in Europe and Asia, well, with technology, they can tell where they came from. Right? Mm-hmm. They have the mineral buildup of something that came from this part of the world.
Yeah. Because
they can match it. There's this copper from ancient times. It's coming from here. When they said there's no one here. What do you mean there was no one here?
Well, they must have dug deep enough
because there isn't enough copper over in Europe to fuel the Bronze Age. There wasn't enough copper. So where did it come from?
I feel like we need the X-Files.
Right? Like I said, I'm a huge history and discovery channel, and they and this is what bugs me about them. They give me all this, and then they don't give me the answer.
Oh yeah, because they don't know.
And they don't know. Like,
and that's what I love.
So you're pulling tons and tons and tons of copper out of these mines. They took it to here, but who?
So like this is like the thing that I love is this is science. What we're talking about.
Right.
Science, people think that science is the answer, but every scientist will tell you
there's more questions than answers in science.
Every time you find something, there's something more.
Right.
And that's why I like science, because it doesn't ever say this is the answer. They will go, this is the problem, but we don't have an answer for it. So like you look at, I know people are going to hate me for saying this, but you look at like climate change. And they look at it and they go,
I'm telling you right now, it's been 9,000 degrees for the last 2 months. It's hot.
I mean, scientists look at it and they don't go, oh, this is causing all the problems. They say, this is the problem, is that the temperatures are changing, but we don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
So that's what they're trying to figure out. And then once they figure that out, like they might be like, well, we've got to tilt the earth slightly. Now we've got more questions. How do you tilt the earth?
You just take a really big rocket and attach it to the North Pole, right? And you just launch it and it pulls. I saw Thor do it in a movie once. I mean, you just have Rocket in his little machine. I don't know how Thor could talk in space, but he can. It's like Aquaman talking underwater. It's weird. but you just go with it.
I feel like right now we've got some flat earthers listening, being like, "You can't tilt the Earth; everyone will get knocked off."
Right? You just kick everyone off. So, but yeah, like, and we're getting out of it slowly, surely, thinking that the ancients, they stayed in one spot and they did what they did. No, they didn't. We figured this out in the 90s when the United States Congress thought it would be a good idea to put wolves back into the Yellowstone because they aren't going to leave the invisible fences. They're going to stay in the park. Right now, Montana has a pretty big problem. We have a natural predator that belongs in Montana, but it doesn't anymore. Why? Because we eradicated the species. We adapted without it. Now we have cattle, we have sheep, we have goats, we have whatever. The wolves don't care.
Nope.
You put them back, they're going to do what they do.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not against reinstating a species back to where it belongs, but unfortunately, when you eradicate a species from a place where it was and then fill it back up with stuff that wasn't there to begin with, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
It becomes an invasive species.
For me, it's always that I'm a very nature guy.
And
humans,
we mess so much stuff up.
Goodness.
It's like we did. I discussed it a few weeks ago. Like being down in Florida, they brought in these geckos to eat the cockroaches. Well, now they have a gecko problem.
Well, think about it this way. This is this is one way that I explained it to people. Is I was like, imagine we took all the ranchers. And I'm using ranchers because we're in Montana, and we went. You can't be in Montana anymore, and we pushed you to like Idaho, right? And they'd be like, but our stuff is there, and we know how to make stuff on the land there. But we're like, no. We just don't want you there. But now we're gonna grow wheat fields of glory. And they're just like, but we can do that, right? It's like that's kind of what it's like. Is you take something that's supposed to be there because we need ranchers,
Yep.
we need farmers.
I love cow; it's delicious.
Right? But if we took them and we went, no, you go over here now.
You ever notice how it's weird? Like there was like, I like milk, right? Cow's milk, goat's milk. You mentioned drinking human breast milk, and you're like, what's wrong with you? You're supposed to. Like you're supposed to drink that, right? But it would be just weird if you had a milking station full of people. But we do it with cows.
Yeah. I just thought you think about it with the ranchers they leave. What would happen? They'd start slowly coming back.
Well, it's like we have the bear thing. Like we've got bears. They've been trapping bears in the plains. People are like, it's so weird to see a bear. It's not weird. They were here before.
Yeah.
The problem is we got more people coming into where they are now, where we push them to. They're like, oh, sweet, they're gonna leave us alone. Oh, crap, they're not leaving us alone. Where are we gonna? We'll go over here again. Maybe they left. Well, we didn't leave.
Yeah, that's fun. Nature's fun for me.
Nature is crazy because it finds a way, and that's a lousy line from a movie. I love that movie, Jurassic Park. Nature finds a way. Always, it's gonna win.
It's true. It does always find. If something was to destroy all of us,
if people leave this planet, which would probably be a good thing.
I poor pity the planet we go to.
Right. Poor Mars.
No,
there's nothing there. But this weird thought crossed my mind earlier today. Where did they say there was water on Mars, but where did it go?
They drank it all.
But it has to go somewhere. Like we recycle water constantly. You drink it, you pee it out in water again, or it evaporates in the air and it comes down as rain. But if Mars was similar to Earth and had all that water, where did it go?
Well, that's just
people are like it evaporated, but it has to go somewhere.
So our water levels have dropped.
Where did it go?
It's one of those things where I don't think 100% of all water gets recycled.
I don't know. Some of it gets used somewhere, but there can't be absolute nothing of nothing, right?
Well, I mean, here's a way to think of it. They say that we're like 90% water. The more people we have, the more water needs to be used, and we hold it within ourselves.
So that's not saying the water's disappeared. It's just in something else.
It's just, but
I'm asking, where did it go from Mars?
So Mars had so many people that eventually there was no more.
They all left Mars.
And then they just flew away.
That's where people came from.
Mars. And that's why some are in places that we didn't expect. They were the late bloomers that didn't have the money.
We're about done here, but I got to tell you this because I taught my daughter a life lesson today in the car on the way back, right? It has nothing to do with what we've been talking about history-wise, but I have to bring it up, right? So we stop at the gas station in Great Falls before we're headed out, right? I get a tiny little can of Pringles, right? Once you pop, you can't stop.
Yeah.
I'm eating the Pringles and I'm going along. I eat the whole can, right? But I put the lid on and I set it next to my console here.
Oh, no.
And Aurora's in the very back seat. She's having a good time. She's watching a movie one out. She's like, Dad, can I have a Pringle? I'm like, you can absolutely have Pringles. And I hand the jar back, right? But Mom doesn't think anything. She hands it right to her. And Aurora opens it up. Dad, you're such a jerk. And she throws it at me. It's empty. I ate of course I eat all the Pringles. I'm a fat guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Aurora, you learned a very valuable lesson today. Never judge a can by what's on the outside. You always have to make sure judge what's on the inside. Just because it looks good on the outside doesn't mean disappointment isn't going to be on the inside.
That's right.
Because she almost cried. I'm like, but this is a good learning lesson for you. And don't let me get the Pringles first.
All right, so I guess we'll leave on don't let Derek get the Pringles first.
Don't let me get the Pringle can first. You're going to be disappointed.
All right, well, thanks for listening to Average Rants here at KNMC
90.1.
FM.
Feels so good that
It
way.
does. All right, we'll see you next week.
And we're out.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.